Welcome back to the painting channel, everybody. Today's watercolor is going to be fairly short and it's a time lapse, and I'm sure that'll be fun and you'll get something from it. This is actually an exercise in complementary color. A year ago I went to a stunning little place near Ashford in Kent called Hothfield Common, but I actually went there painting for the day, but the end of the day was exquisite. The sun was setting behind me on this lovely autumnal day. The skies were still a very deep cobalt blue, and the trees were just orange and on fire. The middle ground was reds and the foreground was in shade, and that exhibited lovely violets and deep greens. So that's what I'm going to try and do for you. Fairly simple drawing, just the sky, the tree shapes, the distance shape of other trees, and also the middle ground and also the foreground elements of this painting. So I sit back and enjoy, and if at the end of this you want to have a go, fantastic, and have a go yourself. Now I'm putting in the cobalt blue, but I'm leaving areas for the oranges to go in. I didn't really want to lose too much of the area of white paper where I'm going to put the orange, only because the blue will taint the orange color, of course. But I've allowed it to sort of settle and not too wet, and now I'm going to put in some orange color, so this blue is sort of not as wet as it could be, and that will allow me to put the orange in without the blue just rushing in to take over and bleed down. It will bleed some, but not as much, as you can see. The orange is really a strong pigment, and you can just see how that blue and that orange just work together. It's really beautiful. And allowing this to again come on down and let it sort of slowly migrate down the paper. You're keeping everything damp, everything wet, but not overly wet. Okay, so that's the trick, is understanding the wetness of your paper to see how much each color will bleed. Adding in some vermilion color now to add to that lovely orange, and that gives that really rich middle ground of the heathers and the ferns that are dying off in the winter. And we're putting in a little bit of violet, which is corrupted. The violet has got some magenta into that and a bit of the green. So we're using phthalo green and magenta, and those different mixes you can see add to a really rich foreground texture and pigment. So the trees behind me are shielding me from the sun and the immediate foreground, but those lovely greens and violets just really exhibit. And again, we're using complementaries, we're using reds and greens, we're using blues and oranges, and they just excite each other. So now I'm just lifting out with my lovely dagger brush some of the tree branch forms. These we call silver birches. There are many of them on Hothfield, and they really exhibit their lovely white bark during the course of the evening light. And so their lovely foliage is dying, it's glistening orange, and then you've got the lovely white trees. And I think in America you call a similar tree, or if not it's the same one, you call them aspens. And I have fond memories of visiting America many times for shows in the past, and seeing the fall colors and the beautiful aspens everywhere. It's great. But anyway, I digress. You can see I've added some more texture, some more oranges, more definite colors. I've allowed the background to dry out first, but I'm really just touching color in. Again, I'm still using the dagger brush and just tapping in wonderful orange pigments and red pigments. It's almost like an abstract. It shows no physical form or detail in the terms of the reality of what I saw on the day. I just wanted to play around with these wonderful colors, and as it happens, this painting is turning out a little bit more of an abstract than I ever planned it to be. I set out with a different idea, and as this painting progressed, it actually changed and reshaped my thoughts, and that's really what painting can do. I don't see a problem with it. I think that, you know, when we set out, we do have a firm fixed idea in our head about painting, or at least the image that we plan on doing. And that's great, because you do need to have a plan when you set out. I mean, some of the worst paintings out there are those that are done without actually an understanding or a plan moving forward. But sometimes, as this one, a painting can actually dictate to you that it's doing something different, and it suggests other things to you in the process of its creation. And that's what this one did. So I've allowed that to suggest that distance, but a little bit of warmth in there. And now I'm going to start looking at the bigger area of red in the middle ground, just going over the blue violet. So I'm not going to try and get rid of all of that blue or violet underneath. I'm simply using some of the color that I had that suggests those beautiful colors in the middle ground to pop through and allow some of that blue to show too. And where some of that on the left hand side, some of that red bled through, I've left that, because that again just suggests this non-conformity of the image. It's just, I say, a bit of an abstract, and it's not. I mean, abstract is a really misused word in my book, and it is only my opinion, but you know, I think that a painting is a painting, and obviously if it's realism, yes, it carries that label, of course, and one can understand. Is it an abstract? I don't know. I think it's really an overrated term. But if that's what this is, then so be it. If not, it's just really my idea of a loose painting that has developed itself over the course of creating it. And it certainly, as I said just now, did not start out with this idea in mind. But it's great. I love it. And I've added some more trees in now in the background, strengthen those oranges and give them a little bit more form. Bit stronger reds and oranges going. I will use some body color to define the warm white trunks of those silver birches further in, but I just, for the moment, I just wanted to reinforce the redness, those rich colors as that light is changing behind me and the sun is just dipping. And I'm going to be looking at the foreground structure now. There was a big heavy gorse bush right there, and I wanted to put some indigo into that just to give it that silhouette look, but really, really cool. I'm going to be using some warms, some umbers, some magenta in there too, but initially that lovely structure is just there, and it creates an anchor point and gives some form of perspective to the whole area. I'm not sure if I conveyed the gorse bush properly, but I quite liked it. So I'm putting in some magenta into this now and just warming up that gorse as I see it. And I'm going to let that come down into some nice greens in a moment. And I'm not covering the whole area. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to allow some of the stuff that was underneath it to come through and add a little bit more form. And I'm just tapping the brush up and adding a little bit more orange and structure into the middle ground too. Just some of those areas where there are large lumps of ferns, dead ferns that are laying in sways across that middle ground. So I'm just suggesting a little bit of that. Nothing too heavy, just little taps of the brush. And that's the beautiful thing about a dagger brush, is that it will allow for so many applications from the tip to the edge. Added a little bit more warmth into there, just as a bit of a deep glow to the ground. And just, yeah, I just sort of, not playing around, but just coming to the end of this painting really, and just adding one or two little bits of detail as I could see it in the really dying light. A few bits of grassy tufts here and there, just a few taps with the brush to suggest growth upwards, and bits of debris. But you can see the whole painting is just these layers, these colors, and it's just, yeah, what can I say? It's really rich. Now we are coming to the end of the painting, and I'm just really reinforcing one or two areas of the tree. I'm actually adding that body color in now. Now I felt that was a little bit too strong, and so I will go back over that with a little bit of orange once that's dry, just to take away or at least reduce the impact of that white. But you do get the idea that these are silver birches, or if you're watching this in America, aspens. I don't know if they, someone will tell me if they're the same subspecies or whatever they are. But yeah, anyway, whatever. I digress. I'm having fun. And I'm just reinforcing the trees. But in wrapping this up, if you've enjoyed it, the full version of this, along with many other tutorials that are being increased to each week, are to be found on my Patreon page. Now, all the details to my Patreon are in the details below this video and other videos that you watch. So if you've enjoyed it, have a look at that. If you want to become a patron, please, you'll be so welcome. There's so much more to see and enjoy. And in the short term, if you've enjoyed this video, I catch you all later. And there's another video there, and there's actually more videos there. All the best for now. Bye-bye.